Well, hey guys, welcome back to the show. It's good to be with you today, as always. Got another great episode for you today. Today, I got a chance to hang out with Beau Martonik of the East Meets West podcast. And I got a chance to meet Beau in person a few weeks back at the Total Archery Challenge in Seven Springs, Pennsylvania. And we did a little bit of podcasting there, but we hit it off and we got a chance to schedule a full-length podcast together. So I'm bringing that to you today. Beau is an awesome guy. Like I said, he's based in Pennsylvania, and he's the host of the East Meets West podcast, which is a great resource for guys who live out east and want to go west and hunt and learn more about that. But also he does a lot of really cool content about finding adventure right in your own backyard. So, heading out on a whitetail hunt or a turkey hunt, whatever it may be, in the Appalachian Mountains, for example, if you live out east here. So it's really cool to talk to him. He's also got some great YouTube content out there, not only about going west and a cool Alaska film even, but like I said, about finding adventure right in your own backyard. So he's got some cool Appalachian mountain hunting content and whitetail stuff. So definitely check out his YouTube channel, Beau Martonik, and also East Meets West podcast. He was a big inspiration to me, and I learned a lot from him just as I've been continuing to grow this project and getting started. And I really respect his work ethic a lot. He's a really hardworking guy. He works a 40, 50 hour a week job, and then also comes home and busts out and creates all this really awesome content for East Meets West. He's an amazing archer as well, works on his own bows, great whitetail hunter, and just an all around good dude. So a verse that really came to mind when I was kind of preparing this episode that Beau really personifies to me is Proverbs 21:5, and that verse says, "Good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty." And it's such a basic concept, but not always easy to do in the real world. Beau does an amazing job of this. Like I said, busting his tail at a job and then coming home. And from the level of quality of his content, you would not know. You'd think he's doing this full time. But anyway, he's a great dude, and looking forward to talking to him and sharing it with you. Before we head into it, I do want to throw out some more decals for some 5-star reviews. So if you're listening, Colorado Mountain Hunter and Sitka Steve, go ahead and drop me an email to hunter@thisishuntersquest.com. I'll get you some decals in the mail, and I appreciate all you guys leaving me 5-star reviews and ratings. It's big time help getting the word out. Share with friends, word of mouth, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Got a lot more YouTube content coming down the way, including my filmed hunts coming out later this year. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, and leave me comments, likes. It helps get the message out. And speaking of which, so this episode will release on August 15th. So this week I will be leaving for Kodiak in 5 days after this releases, and I'm working really hard to get some content in the hopper so that things will continue rolling even when I'm out of town. So just to give you a heads up on that, I still will be bringing content out. I'm working really hard to get stuff loaded and ready to go, so it just rolls out even when I'm not in town. It might be moving to a bi-weekly schedule when I'm on the road and during hunting season. So, sorry about that, but it's a lot of work to get these things produced and ready to go, on top of packing and logistics and all the stuff I got going. So there will be some great content still coming out while I'm gone. It might go to bi-weekly. So just, keep that in mind. Keep me in prayer as I'm in Kodiak, perhaps while you're listening to this. Definitely going to need y'all's prayers. It's going to be a fun trip, exciting trip, and going to come back with lots of awesome video and audio content from that. So anyway, looking forward to sharing that. And so that's enough from me. I'm going to go ahead and we're jumping into this episode with Beau Martonik of East Meets West. Enjoy. Well, cool. I'm here with Beau Martonik, my guest today. How you doing, man?
Good. It's good to get to talk to you, man. How are you doing?
Good, man. And I'm doing well. And me and Beau got a chance to meet a few weeks ago up at TAC in Seven Springs. and he got to connect up a little bit up there, and he was nice enough to join me today. So, have you done any more of those shoots or anything lately, or?
The week after the one in Seven Springs, I did go to Boyne, Michigan the following weekend to a shoot,
Nice.
and then that was a blast. I've been going to Seven Springs one since they started, but I've never went to any other one, so that was really cool to see. Northern Michigan's a beautiful place.
Yeah, cool, man. So anyway, I know probably a lot of my listeners and stuff will have heard of your podcast, and you've been crushing it, man, and putting out some really good stuff. So kudos to you, and I've enjoyed listening to your stuff, and I was also in the Founders series and got to hear more of your story and stuff like that. So that's been
Appreciate
cool.
that.
Yeah, man. And yeah, just like I know you have a full-time job as well, but I see the level of quality of content you put out, and like I can see how smart you are with your marketing. So it's like it's cool to see that you're putting that much effort into it and doing it well, man. So good job.
Well, I don't know if I'm smart with it. It's a lot of trial and error and trying to learn on my own. I'll put it that way.
You're humble, but I can tell you're a smart guy. You know what's going on. So but just in case people aren't as familiar with East Meets West, just give us a little background on you and your story, and what you're all about, man.
Yeah. So I'm from north central Pennsylvania or northwestern Pennsylvania, however you kind of want to look at the state. And I've grown up here in the middle of nowhere, the middle of the Pennsylvania wilds. It's really, I didn't realize it when I was young, but very lucky to grow up in this area where there's over 2 million acres of public land in
Dang,
northern Pennsylvania alone.
that's a
So
ton.
I've never had a problem with hunting access, and since I was a kid, I mean, just grew up in a hunting family, so it just everything kind of meshed along
Yeah.
for me. And as I was, growing up around this, we have a hunting camp, and like a whole family again is involved in it. I just followed right along the tracks, kind of like my dad did. And it wasn't until I was in college and met some buddies that were really big into hunting too, and that's when it like just I just that's all I could think about at
Yeah.
that point was just like full on hunting. And when I got out of college and stuff, I'd moved to the Pittsburgh area for a while,
Hmm.
and that's when I really appreciated all the places I had to hunt at
Yeah.
home when there were small pieces of public land around the cities that I could go to, and it was crowded because there's so many people there. Like,
Yeah.
that's when I really started appreciating that more. And but when I was down there, a really good thing happened. Like, so with my previous job, I had met a guy that had owned a company that I'd hired to do some environmental stack testing. So I'm an environmental and safety manager for my day job,
Okay.
and I work in a manufacturing facility. So, anyways, I was hiring this guy, and he's like, "You into hunting?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I own a bow shop too." And I was like,
Oh,
"Oh,
nice.
that's really cool." And when I ended up having to move down to Pittsburgh, he's like, "Do you want to work part time at my shop and kind of get to learn the ropes?" And I was like, "Yeah, like that would be awesome." And so I'd go in there. I started out, sweeping floors and cutting arrows and the stuff that they would trust me doing. And then, got into working on bows a little bit. And that's where I really learned how to clothing layering systems, and
Hmm.
under the way they were a Sitka gear dealer. So I was learning
Okay.
all of that and just learned the whole inside and out of the archery shops. But my favorite thing was just getting to talk to people all the time.
Yeah.
Everybody came in, that's what they wanted to talk about was hunting.
Yeah.
Everybody gets out of work and they come into the shop, and like it was so much fun. And I realized kind of at that point, I was like, I want to find a way to do something, when I'm talking to people like this.
Yeah.
And a few years in, I started going out west. It was I'd read a book. I discovered Cameron Haynes later than probably most people did, and I was on social media and stuff, but I hadn't, like, I don't know, I just didn't know much about Western hunting. And I'm like, man, this looks like so much fun. I love
Yeah.
camping, I love fitness, and I love hunting, and this seems like a pretty good mixture of all of them. So I'd planned this hunt and just went out and did it, just a do-it-yourself hunt, 7-day backpack trip. with my brother and my
Nice.
cousin. And that was the trip that kind of just like changed everything for me. I
Yeah.
was like, this is cool. And when I was sitting up there on the mountain, I remember it was really hard and I struggled, but I remember writing down like every day what happened and the story of it. And I just got home and I typed it up. I was not a writer at the time, like just for fun. And podcasts were getting big at that time. And I wrote an article and submitted it to this online publication called the Journal of Mountain Hunting.
Hmm.
And they ran the story as a subscriber story, and I
Nice.
titled it East Meets West. And it was just talking about that elk hunt from an Eastern perspective and like what happened and all this stuff. And ended up opening up opportunities to write more for Adam at the Journal. And I was like, you know what? As podcasts were just starting to get big and I was listening to them, like, would be really cool is to talk to people from out west and from other places in the country about doing these types of hunts and having people, you know, be able to learn from it. Because when I wrote that story and shared it on my social media, a lot of like local people and a lot of friends I had were like, man, it must be nice to have that kind of money and time to do that. And I'm like, man, it's really not that, like, it's not
Yeah.
that crazy. You just take some planning.
Right.
And I saw there was a gap in the podcasts that were out there were very good, but they were, you had to be at already like a mid-level to understand
Yeah.
it and
Totally.
really be able to take things from it. So I want to take it from a beginner level as I was and still kind of am, and be able to talk to these people that are way better than me, asking the questions that, you know, someone that hadn't done it before would get. And it
Yeah.
took me over a year to finally pull the trigger and buy the podcast equipment and get it rolling. But it was the Total Archery Challenge where I met you at, was where I kind of first started.
Nice.
Rob, who runs it there, he would come in the bow shop. So I knew him and I was telling him about this idea. He's like, hey, Total Archery Challenge is in 3 weeks. I'll give you a booth if you get your stuff and you get your everything rolling. And I'm like, oh
That's
my. So I
awesome.
just got on Amazon, ordered it all, and learned how to use it right there, which
Yeah.
wasn't the best method, but yeah, it kind of took off from there with I just started loving, you know, going on these adventure hunts. And like every year I try to have one hunt where I'm going somewhere and planning it. And then also just the podcast is kind of transitioned to what I've been doing in my home state of Pennsylvania and all through the Appalachian range, which is kind of like almost adventure hunting whitetails
Yeah.
in the big woods region. So, and that's, it's been definitely the part that's definitely taken off the most for me.
That's really cool, man. And like a couple of things you said in there, like one is, you know, working in the bow shop and having that, and like you said, growing up in PA, having that like culture of hunting. And it's, you know, in Virginia, we have a really strong like hunt club culture. And I never was into that much, but I got kind of into it lately. And it's really cool having that culture. But at the same time, like when I found Western hunting, you know, we have sort of like the culture's kind of a good old boy kind of culture, you know, the beer guts, the smoking the cigs, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And when I found Western hunting, like you said, you know, these guys are into fitness and like health and, you know, all this, I was like, it was like a whole new world just exploded. It's like I started hunting again. Did you experience something like that too?
Yeah, it was incredible. And it actually made me more excited to even hunt whitetails back home and take some different strategies and
Yeah,
things I learned out west and apply that to it.
totally.
And, you know, it's just, yeah, you can find really adventure anywhere. And that really opened my eyes up to it.
Yeah, man. So like you said, or like we said earlier, you have a full time job as well, and then you come home. It's like a legit full time job. Like you're in 40, 50
Yeah.
hours a week, and you come
Like,
home
yeah.
and crush
Yeah.
it on the podcast and the content creation. So I do really appreciate you taking some time to be on the show today, man. I know you're a busy
Yeah.
dude. How do you do it, man? How do you do the side hustle and keep it going at work and all that?
It's I don't know. It's honestly a daily struggle sometimes
Yeah.
where like when I'm trying to plan things out, I feel like I have everything just booked for weeks ahead, and that's just like every day after work and stuff. And the last weekend was my first weekend home in like 8 weeks, and I loved it. Like, I just was in my basement setting up my gear, doing some workout in the yard, and that was a nice kind of breakup. But yeah, my regular day is like I wake up between 4 and 4:30 in the morning, and I go to the gym. And because if I don't get my workout done in the morning, it's
Yeah.
a lot easier for me to skip it later in the day.
Sure.
So do that. I go to work for anywhere from 9 to 11 hours a day. Come home, make dinner, do the podcast stuff till, I don't know. I used to do it till like midnight, but the low sleep was catching up to me.
Yeah.
So
Burning
I
out.
started trying to break it down by like 9 o'clock or so,
Nice.
and doing that. So as I've become a little more efficient with doing things and knowing how to, with the podcast and writing and stuff, and learning how to do it a little quicker, it's helped out quite a bit. So, and just trying to learn how to control what's on my plate and understand, like, okay, you got to be realistic with what you can do.
Yeah.
And I'm not great at that, but it's something I'm trying to learn.
Yeah, man. Well, you're doing well. And again, I appreciate your time, man. I know it's you don't have much time on your hands, but going back to that first hunt you did out west, man. I don't know, what were some of the biggest takeaways, like some of the biggest lessons you learned on that thing? Because those are some of the things that are invaluable. And, you can listen to all the podcasts you want all day long, but at the end of the day, you're just going to have to get out there and go, and you're going to learn stuff along the way. But what was some of the stuff that you, like, your biggest takeaways from that?
Well, first thing was Google Earth lies to you and makes it look like things are more accessible than they actually are.
Agreed.
So the mountains were bigger than I had expected. That was definitely I'd say the first thing that I realized from a lessons learned standpoint. And also the air is a lot thinner. So even when I thought I was in good shape, it made it a lot more difficult. And I learned that hard charging on day one is not a good way to going about it. When you're coming from anywhere really, it's a lower elevation, and going up that high, you gotta, I know it's hard to take like days off of work and everything, believe me, I know, but like you have to put days on the beginning to take it easy and acclimate, because you can ruin your whole trip and get seriously injured if you're not able to do that and be able to acclimate to the elevation. So that was a big thing I learned. The other thing, takeaway was the first trip I did was a backpack trip, and we packed in for 7 days. If I were to tell somebody to do it again, if you're really experienced with backpacking or backpacking out west, maybe you'd be fine with it. But it's probably to take baby steps rather than going all in. Truck camp. Go and sleep at the truck, hike in, do it. Like elk hunting in the west is less than 10% success, and that's including everybody. That's including the outfitters. That's including people that have done it forever. It's very difficult, and you have to understand that it's going to be a process rather than a 1-year bucket list type thing. So if that's what you choose to do, which I'm not in any way steering anybody away from that, but you just have to have those expectations, realistic expectations going into it, and realizing it's going to be a process. But it's a process that if you love that kind of stuff, you love working hard and delayed gratification, it's unbelievable. So those were some of like the first things that just came to mind on that trip. But there's just countless amounts of things. Test your food ahead of time. You need to understand how your body reacts to that backpacking food. And it sounds good, just like get a whole bunch of calories and bars and food, but when you're in 4 or 5 days in and you're tired and all these things, nothing sounds good to you. So try to have something in there that's like something that you enjoy and understand how your body reacts. Because if you go in there with all these, high fat, high protein meals, and you're not used to eating like that in your regular life, your digestive system isn't going to treat you the best. So that can make your hunt difficult if you're not ready for it. So those are some of the things that come to mind. I think like learning that and just getting out and doing it, in my opinion, is better than even learning, trying to know exactly how to kill an elk or do those types of things. those are obviously really important, but you can only do so much. And I think just figuring out how to make it happen and do it is your best first step.
Yeah, man. Yeah, there's some good. I remember the first time I went to Colorado and like my stomach was just like bloated, like and like in pain. Like the first day, I was like, "What is going on?" And then I went to the grocery store and I saw the bags of chips that are like inflated like balloons. Like, oh, that's what my stomach looks like right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And as far as like a process, yeah, that's so true, man. Like coming from the East, East Coast, if you're not, just learning the ins and outs of being a good backpacker is hard enough on top of like figuring out tags, how to find and kill an animal, like carrying a weapon with you. Like the learning curve is steep. So I did what you did, kind of inadvertently, honestly, but because patience is not my best strong suit. But we did a trip like, in the western part of the state in Virginia, me and my cousin. There's a whole podcast about it. I made every mistake in the book, including shooting a hole in the floorboard of my truck with a 30-30.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to go back and listen to that one sometime. But,
Yeah.
We got wicked blisters but we ended up coming out there with a deer. I shot a deer on the last day. Anyway, so yeah, definitely start small. Like, that's a good advice, man. And you got a mule deer hunt, is that right? Coming up this year?
Yeah, yeah. I've
Tell me about
not
that.
hunted mule deer up to this point,
Me either.
and I've hunted elk for 4 years and caribou last year, and I've always wanted to hunt high country mule deer, but I'd wanted to get an elk first, and it took me 4 years to kill an elk, and then I went to Alaska, so I was like, okay, this is my year for mule deer. So I've been putting in for points in Colorado, and I finally drew a tag that I wanted to go hunt this unit. And so both myself, my cousin Mason, and one of my best friends Michael, we're all going together. And
Nice.
then Justin, who's filmed some of my hunts, he's
Mm-hmm.
coming along again
Cool.
to film it. But it's gonna be testing. It's not like starting all over again, but it kind of is, from the standpoint of, like, I've never hunted mule deer. I've never sat behind a glass all day,
Yeah.
and we're hunting at elevations, upwards of 13,000 feet, if in some
Wow.
places even higher. And it's going to be a physical and mental challenge. We're going for 14 days.
Wow. Nice.
So it'll be a trip, but the first 3 days we're out there is just acclimating. It's before the season even opens. We're
Smart.
staying at an Airbnb one night and just like at a high elevation at a ski resort, just to be able to try to acclimate there, do some light hiking, we have some spots marked root and glass from the road. So we're still doing things that are beneficial,
Right.
but not overdoing it. And then like a day and a half before the season, we're going to try to hike in, set up camp, and try to find some bucks
Cool.
to go after, on the opening day. So that hunt is, this will be a backpack hunt. And so I've been just like prepping all my gear, unpacking, packing, making sure I have everything, got my list there,
Yeah.
weighing things out and going through it, and practicing shooting my bow and in all different types of situations, and just working out and walking around and hiking with weight on my back, and just getting used to it, doing everything I can to try to put those odds in my favor.
Nice, man. Well, it sounds like you're on the right track. That's gonna be cool. Looking forward to seeing that film and hearing about that hunt, man. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like I said, it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I haven't done it yet, so I can't say this, but I feel like it could potentially be like my favorite type of hunting, even over elk hunting, because elk hunting is a lot. I love elk hunting,
Yeah.
but a lot of it is walking, through the timber, trying to hear a bugle or locate elk. And whenever I started glassing in 2019, I went to more of an open type country area in Idaho, and I was able to watch animals, from even miles away. And I just became obsessed with doing that. And I love watching them. And last year, caribou hunting, watching grizzlies, moving across the mountain and doing these types of things. I'm like, I love glassing. And that's what mule deer hunting is, and spot and stalk. And I just love deer in general. As you know, I'm obsessed with whitetails too. So I just have a feeling that this could be something I really enjoy.
Yeah. I've been looking forward to and holding off on the mule deer too. Um, Kind of building some points and different things like that. Um, I did Alaska last year as well. And this year I'm going back. We're going to go to Kodiak this year to do
Oh, nice.
the blacktail. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I'm going to do an antelope hunt. But man, Alaska's freaking amazing, isn't it?
Oh my, it's unbelievable. And I want to do that blacktail hunt. Everyone keeps telling me that's such a fun hunt
Yeah.
to be able to do.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. We're actually leaving in just under a month, so we'll be out there when stuff is still green. They might still be some in velvet, and flying into an alpine lake, and we'll be back there like 6 days. So that's gonna be cool, man. Sorry, somebody's calling me.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I'm sorry, someone called me. All right. But yeah, man. Just I can see it behind you. Your slogan. How do you define adventure, man? And so I kind of wanted to get your take on adventure and like we've said, you can find adventure right in your backyard, which is awesome. I think that's something that you've been really vocal about, and it's so true, and I love that. So like, what do you think draws you to this style of hunting, like that is a little bit more physically demanding? It takes more preparation, takes more time, more resources. It's harder. Sometimes it's not even fun in the moment, but like what draws you to this type of hunting?
It's funny because like sometimes when you're in the moment and you're on these hunts, well, actually most of the time it's not that fun. And it sounds like weird to say that,
Yeah.
but it's 110% type 2 fun on a lot of these trips. It's difficult, it's hard, you're tired, you're hungry. All of a sudden you realize you need water and you have to drop 1,000 foot elevation to go get water just to
Yeah.
be able to make dinner. Like it's funny when you go through those things, but for me, I think the reason why I love it so much is I love seeing new places. I
Mm.
love like realizing that there's really no limits to what you can do and be able to experience in the year-long process,
Yeah.
that what it takes. When something comes together, it's the most satisfying, gratifying feeling that you
Right.
could possibly have. And also I just like being able to completely disconnect. I mean, we just talked about how busy our lives can be
Yeah.
on a daily basis. And when you can completely disconnect and just sit there and you're literally bored. So you're sitting there and you're listening and you're watching a bird fly and you're seeing a marmot that's coming up on, one of the rocks, and just watching their behavior
Mm-hmm.
and watching the animals and storms rolling in and all these different things that you're way more present in that
Yeah.
moment and
Like
being able to
immersed in
take.
it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I feel like I do my best thinking there, like, because it's clear you don't have phones beeping, you don't have someone calling you here, you don't have emails coming in,
Yeah.
all this external stuff that you deal with on a daily basis, that's gone. It's just you in your head, and if you're with some buddies. But those moments, what I've learned, and too, like the people I hunt with, they are have become my best friends, and they were really good friends going into it. But when you mesh with somebody on a hunt like that, like it's those people are your ride or die, for lack of better terms, people, because
Yeah.
you just, or they can be the people you never talk to again, depending on how it goes. But
It's a crucible.
it's yeah, it is. I just love that style of hunting. And what to add to your point about how I say, like, you can find adventure anywhere. If you take that mindset, and like being in Pennsylvania, like luckily I live very close to like some remote areas. I live in a remote area,
Yeah.
but even other people throughout the Appalachian Range, Virginia or wherever, you
Mm-hmm.
can find these places close to home, low cost. You can have less time into it, and you can immerse yourself in these places and have the same type of experience if you have the mindset to do that.
Totally.
If you want to say, oh, I can't see Alaska, so this is going to suck. Well, that's your own mindset, and that's a problem. But like, if you're willing to do that and take it for what it's worth, and I think it's funny because even my mind even got opened up a little more. I did an interview with Donnie Benson,
I just
and
listened to that today. That was an awesome episode.
really,
Yeah, yeah,
thank you. I was talking to him about how I struggle with trying to hunt after work
yeah,
because like I can't turn my brain off. And he's
right.
like, you gotta get in that mindset. You could still do that, and
Yeah,
in a hunting in a backyard or like in a different type of spot. You have to learn how to manage your brain and your mind and be able to turn it off. And that's something that I need to work on. And I think that it could be really good. So
yeah.
that was just a point I wanted to add there.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, that was a really cool episode. I got Donnie's gonna come on here too in a couple weeks, and so I was listening. I wanted to hear you guys talking to prepare for this and for him. Um, but yeah, man, it's so true. Like like I said, I went to Alaska this year, but then I came home, and so I'm in a hunt club. Literally, I have access to like 8,000 acres, like 5 minutes from my house. And it is suburban hunting, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's high density. It's not like, am I going to see a deer today? It's like, how many am I going to see? Will they be in range? Will there be a one that's big enough?
Yeah.
Which is cool. And I kind of a little bit got spoiled on that type of hunting because I grew up hunting in a agricultural area where it's like extremely high deer density. But at the same time, like I went this year and just did like a 3 day mountain hunt in Virginia solo. That was my first experience of like going solo. Only 3 days, but it was totally an adventure, man. I mean, I just remember sitting there that first night and there's coyotes like blasting off like all around me, and you can see the stars, and definitely I don't know if I love hunting solo, to be honest, but it was
Yeah.
definitely an experience.
No, that's a good thing to recognize. Like I've realized that too. Like with out west, I that's not something that I'm totally interested in doing. I did
Yeah,
it for a few days, and I enjoy being with people more. And it
yeah, I
takes a
do too.
different type of person to be able to do it. Like now for whitetails, I've enjoyed hunting solo like all day and doing that and coming back. But like but it also I feel like it grows on you too. Like if you were to ask me about hunting solo out west in 2016 when I started doing it, I'd be like, hell no, like I am
Yeah,
not doing that. So hunting solo for whitetails in PA, I do that frequently, and you get used to it. And so I mean I think at this point I could hunt out west solo for 3 or 4 days and be just fine. I mean I think I could go longer, but it wouldn't be really that enjoyable.
yeah,
For me, but maybe, in another 10 years, there might be a point where that's something that's, the more you do something and you take it in kind of baby steps, the better that you can
yeah.
be at it, in my opinion. I mean, think about it at least for me, when I was younger, like I hated walking in the woods in the dark. When I first started
Oh
hunting on
yeah,
my own, like
yeah,
I
yeah.
hated
Creepy.
walking to my tree stand. I was like thinking everything was out there. I'm turning around my headlamps on full blast. I'm out there, just trying to figure it out. And as you do that more and more, now it doesn't bother me and I'm able to
Yeah,
do it. Then, even the first time I go out west, it's like starting all over. All right, now there's mountain lions. There's
yeah,
all these other things that are
yeah.
here. And then it's creepy again. And
Oh
then you
yeah,
get used to it. And you just keep kind of pushing yourself in those uncomfortable places.
yeah.
And you're
That's how you
able to
grow,
get,
right?
you're 100% right.
Yeah,
Yep.
just like anything in life, man, you got to get uncomfortable to grow. But yeah, I remember as a kid in high school going out and hunting by myself, and like one time I remember being so freaked out, I like called my dad, and I was like on the phone with my dad as I was walking to my tree stand. I was so freaked out, um, but yeah, man, and just going back to this kind of like theme of adventure, I think you're a thoughtful guy and you spend a lot of time out in the woods and stuff like that. Like, um, you know, have you ever thought much about your spiritual connection to the land or the creator, or what you think about all that stuff?
Yeah. I mean, for me, that's like that's the number one place where I can connect on that level, because it's as close as you're going to be in my opinion, in the way that I feel about it, to anything else, because you are able to completely disconnect and be able to understand all the things that were created here
Yeah.
for us. It's something that I haven't been able to find as closely anywhere else,
Yeah.
in my opinion. For me personally, I get more of a connection there than I do in a church pew, and that's just again how I feel about
Sure.
the way that I connect with it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool, man. And, yeah, just that connection with, for me, the connection with, God but, even other guys, being out there. I really enjoy going back a little bit. Like, I really enjoy that social connection of being able to share the hunt. And I mean, if you think back in like human history, I doubt there was ever like Neanderthal hunters going out solo for 20. I mean, probably it did happen, but I mean, you got to hunt together for survival. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, and then like go on the people standpoint, as I said, like that's you actually get to talk to people. Like even though these people I go with, I know very well, but like you don't ever talk to them on a deep level other than when you're on a hunt like that.
oh
At
yeah,
least for me. And even I've met people on hunting trips. There's a guy that listened to my podcast and had reached out to me when he heard me talking about where I was planning my elk hunt in 2019. I didn't give nothing about locations, and he was hunting the exact area that I was e-scouting and going to. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to be out there the whole month of September. Let's meet up." And so I met up with him, and we ended up hunting together and hanging
nice.
out. And he's one of my good friends now. And it was just like, he came and helped me pack my bowl out, and it was just like that connection was built there. Where if I would run into him, at a restaurant or down the street, like it may not have been
Yeah.
that way.
Oh, absolutely. Like, it's almost like, I know, I feel like there's such a like connection between the kind of warrior archetype that lives inside of men and the hunter. And I feel like as hunters, unless you literally are like a war fighter, that's like the closest thing to like tapping into that like deep thing that's like seated inside like the heart of a man. And when you're able to like be in the wilderness hunting, you just connect on like a different level.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I totally agree.
Yeah, man. So going back to this kind of like theme of adventure in your backyard, man. So, um, I think, like I said, there's opportunities. I'm sure there's probably opportunities in Pennsylvania to, sit on a bean field and just count deer. But then I know you like to get out and get in the mountains and stuff. So what's that like? Like, how does it look like for you finding adventure in your own backyard?
Yeah, so for me, mostly it's I mean, it can be with a variety of species, but I love whitetails and I love hunting mountain bucks. I've grown up doing it. So unlike you, where I grew up, I was used to never seeing deer from the low deer densities. So it
That's
made it
tough, man.
easy when I went out west because I was used to it.
Yeah.
And but what I've found, and I used to look at it when I was a kid and watch these TV shows and watch Lee Lakosky and Tiffany and stuff
Mm,
on there, and there are all these big bucks coming out to these fields, and I'd be like, man, we really have it.
yeah.
It sucks here.
Yeah.
And once I changed my mindset there and just like, I was like, okay, it's more of a challenge or a different challenge, I should say. And just like, I'm going to try to figure this out and just start putting as much time in. I mean, I spend
Yeah.
95% of my time scouting versus the little time that I get to hunt. And I love being able to do that and figuring out how deer move in their natural habitat. There's nothing that's really nothing really man-made that's changing their movement. You're
Yeah.
hunting them the way that they're living, and it's just a whole different aspect to it. And that's where I've come to like it. Like there's times I'll sit in my tree for 3 to 4 days without seeing a deer, without seeing
Wow.
a single
Yeah.
deer.
It's
And
tough.
it's a challenge in your head of like you overthinking it and being like, am I in a bad spot? Or maybe you really are in a bad spot, but you got to figure out how, to trust what your scouting has shown you and trust the process and go through it. And that challenge is something that every single year I just keep going back to it and trying to chase, and my goals keep getting bigger as I do it. When I was younger, it was trying to kill any buck that I could with my bow. And then after I got some under my belt, then I kind of stepped up my goals a little bit. It was just
Yeah.
a personal thing more so than anything. And now I like finding specific deer or a specific location and trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
and spending a few years trying to figure it out, understand the movement, and hunting them in a completely different way. And it takes some different tactics here, whether it's hanging in a tree in a saddle, or if it's hunting from the ground in more of a still hunting scenario.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of differences that I think combines a little bit of the Western hunting with Pennsylvania, or with deer hunting.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I was kind of stuck a little bit in my like comfort zone kind of rut thing. Just like I thought about wanting to go out west, and I looked a little bit into it, and I was like, man, it's just too complicated. Can't figure it out, whatever. And then like, I don't know, somebody just inspired me. This guy I know, actually a local guy, telling me all these stories about killing these mule deer and going out to Colorado. I was like, man, I don't want to grow up and get old and fat and die and have no stories to tell. So like, I don't know, what would you say to like guys that are kind of in their comfort zone, maybe want to get their feet wet but aren't sure, how or what to do? Like, what would you say to that guy?
Simple, get out of it. No,
It's
it
true.
sounds so simple, but it is hard. Like, I mean, and even myself that preaches getting out of your comfort zone and going to different spots, or checking out new areas. Like, I still struggle with that. There's an area that I've hunted for the last 6 years that I don't want to hunt anymore, but I keep going back to it because I know it, and I
Yeah.
like it. So like, baby steps would be: find a spot in the spring that's like out of your comfort zone. Say you live in Virginia and you live over by DC, but you want to head over to the mountains and check out a spot. Just go scout it for a weekend.
Mm.
Camp there, camp at your truck, camp in the woods, whatever you want to do, and scout it. And if you have some trail cameras, throw them up and let them sit all year, and still hunt your same spot that year if you, again, taking the baby steps into it. And then go back and get your camera, see what's going on, or scout it some more, do some research, learn. And then and that kind of helps you break into it, rather than just showing up to a new spot and going into it, which
Yeah.
I can promise you, still, if you do that, you will learn more. So like, if you're hunting the same spot or the same property, you get complacent with hunting the same tree all the time because that's what And in
Yeah.
2018, that was really good for you. But situations might have changed, but you get caught in that rut and those past experiences.
Yeah.
You go to a new area, you're looking at it from a clean slate. You're reading the deer sign for what it is. You're understanding, what the movement's looking like from what you see it then, and everything's new.
Yeah.
So you're making decisions based off of what you're seeing at that moment, rather than completely on past experiences, which past experiences could teach you a lot, but sometimes that prohibits the growth of
Yeah.
being able to go
Can
into
become a
some of
rut.
these new. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
So
not the good rut.
exactly, not the rut stash rut.
No.
Um, um, what would you say are some of the top like differences between a mountain deer and a farm, or like a mountain deer and like a farm deer, like, behavior wise? Are there?
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it definitely is. Bedding. There's not a traditional bed to food pattern very often. Sometimes you get a fresh clear cut or logging cut that deer liking to come out and feed in, but there's cover everywhere. They can bed down in a lot of different places. They don't There's food everywhere. There's browse everywhere. So when there's new trees coming up, they're eating sticks and limbs and leaves and acorns and fruit trees and all these different things. They have so much food. So it's a weird thing when you look at it. Like, you don't just be like, okay, here's the food, here's the patch of cover. I know it's a lot harder than this. I'm just trying to simplify it
Yeah,
for
sure.
talking points.
Yeah.
But I got to get in between it. It's just completely different from that aspect, where it's not as straightforward, and it takes a lot of boots on the ground scouting and a lot of knowledge and woodsmanship of
Mm.
the different plants, and really you don't need to go in it with a lot of knowledge. You just got to recognize things. All right, you see a lot of leaves that are just chewed off, or the ground's mowed down, and there's some deer. Why are they doing that? Asking yourself why,
Yeah.
and that helps you understand that. But as far as like behavior with the deer, I've found that, at least in Pennsylvania, for example, it's known for having a lot of hunters,
Mm.
and everyone says, oh, the deer don't get old and stuff. Well, in a lot of places in the mountains, they do get old because they have this cover.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they don't get hunted hard, but they have cover to be able to get away. And they they get extremely smart, and they're difficult to figure out, but they really stick to that cover a lot in daylight. And so that's one of the differences with those types of deer. But they also, and especially in the low deer density areas, they'll cover a lot of ground.
Yeah.
They might spend the summer somewhere over here. Food sources shift. Acorns are dropping on this ridge. They might move a mile and a half over there, or to find a doe during the rut. They can. I've seen some GPS collar data where they've gone 7-8 miles,
Dang.
hiking.
Yeah.
I killed a deer in 2009 that I killed 4.5 miles away from where I had photos of it during the rut.
Wow.
So like I wasn't hunting that specific deer or anything. It just so
Wow.
happened to be that. But it's incredible how far they'll go in these places
Yeah.
to be able to figure it out. So
They're like different animals.
they are.
Yeah. It's cool.
I mean,
Man.
deer are deer, but deer live in a lot of different places,
Right.
and and that could be the same thing in swamps, or in the south versus the north. I mean, there's so many little differences. They're deer at the end of the day, but they have the little bit of differences there.
Yeah. Um, just from like a high level, okay, guys said, okay, I'm gonna try it this year. It's kind of the first step would be pulling up your maps and researching. Just from a high level, like what are some of like the big kind of key areas to like, or like things to like look for and key in on a map, or on on X or whatever.
So when you're looking at a map, like the biggest thing I'm looking at is let's start from ground zero. If you're looking at a brand new, you're trying to find a spot within the state, you want to stay away from major city areas. When I talk about moving to Pittsburgh, public lands around there's a lot of big woods type stuff, but it was heavily hunted because there's more people.
Yeah.
So finding more remote areas is first step. Second step is panning out on the map from a high level view, way above, and I'm looking for vegetation diversity. So I want to see as much diversity as I can, because that means a lot of food, that means different cover, and that means edges. Deer love traveling on edges. So I try to find as much diversity as I can, whether it be logging cuts, conifer trees such as hemlocks, and then your big timber stuff, mountain laurel, all these different things that can be, within those spots. Those really come out to me. And whenever I find something that are good, I'll mark like 10 of these spots, throughout a region. Then I'll look at the road systems and understand the access from the people standpoint. How can they get in? Is there easy access there? Could it be hunted, easily? Then it kind of goes to the terrain. Terrain keeps people out. So that kind of goes with access. If you have to, hike up 600-foot elevation gain or 1,000-foot elevation gain to get to a spot from the bottom, first understand it's going to suck for you too.
Yeah.
But like, those are spots if you're looking for, if you're looking for getting away from people, that's how you're going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so after I do that, and I find an area that's kind of looks like a little bit difficult to access or overlooked. It doesn't always have to be difficult, but somewhere that looks overlooked.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at where the terrain and that vegetation diversity meet. Some of those places create funnels, because you'll have, say, like a thick clear cut, an old clear cut that comes out, and you'll have a draw that comes up and maybe 100 yards in between it. That creates that natural funnel that might funnel the movement through. The deer don't want to walk on the straight up and down side hill. Right. And they also don't want to go bashing through the thick stuff all the time.
Right.
So they try to find those differences and those edges there. And whenever I find those places, I start marking them. If it's a steeper country where they have points of the ridges that come out, a lot of times deer bed there. They like to bed on the edges of clear cuts. mark all those points, and then that's when it's time for me to go in there and check them out.
Nice.
And I try to plan out a route so that the first time I go into an area, I'm not trying to walk every square inch. It takes up a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to hit some of these main areas that I've found and find the best route to navigate it, and then confirm with my eyes what I think I saw on the map, you know?
Nice. So that's awesome, man. I'm sure that's really helpful to guys to kind of key in on some areas. A couple just like rapid fire questions I like to get, guys' perspectives on as far as deer. I asked Nathan Killen these same questions. First, do you avoid smoke when you're like whitetail hunting, or do you think that smoke matters, scent wise?
Um,
Like
I
wood
guess
smoke
wood smoke.
from like a
I don't
campfire.
I don't seek it out, but I don't avoid it either. Would be kind of my thought process. I'm not a big scent control guy.
Okay.
I don't take scent control into play a whole lot. Now, do I use scent free wash, and do I spray down when I get out of the truck? Yeah, but I think it's more of a mind game
Yeah.
than anything for
Some
me
guys are
there.
like crazy about it.
Yeah, and I believe Nathan's one of those guys that
I
are
think he
pretty
is. Yeah.
regimented with it, and yeah, his success doesn't lie with it. But I just haven't found again. I'm not stupid with it,
Yeah.
and but I don't again. I don't actively seek out smoke, but
Yeah. Of course.
yeah,
You pee in a bottle or you let it fly?
let it fly every time. I
Nice.
pee in every scrape that I build.
Okay.
I pee out of the tree. The worst part about peeing out of the tree is the noise it makes when it hits the leaves on a cold morning. But
Yeah.
I do not worry about that one bit.
Yeah. I used to carry a pee bottle with me, but after I talked to Nathan, he said he lets it fly. I'm like, all right, if he does it. So now if you're saying so, I'm definitely not bringing any more bottles.
Yep.
Um, last like rapid fire deer question is something that I just was curious about the other day, because I've been seeing these huge bachelor groups of bucks, when I've been out glassing and stuff. If you're out, or if you see a bachelor group, are you doing anything with that information, or is it just kind of like, that's their summer thing? Once October hits, it's out the window, or is that useful in any way?
Depends on the location. Like, so in the big woods, if I were to see one in a new logging cut or something, like a lot of times there's a new growth coming up, a lot of green space there, and
Mm-hmm.
that'll be a spot where bachelor groups are during the summer. But that's also good throughout the season. So they'll definitely split up, but there might be a couple bucks that hang
Just
around there
hanging
if it
around.
has that diversity I'm looking for in the nearby area.
Yeah.
But there's other spots that I'll run cameras in the summer that I've found are good for bachelor groups, but there's not really any of them that stick around.
Yeah.
So I just don't. I take that information as knowing that there's deer within a 3 mile radius, and then try to find the good spots outside of it. So
Yeah.
it really does depend on what the area looks like.
Sure, man. Well, cool. Just one thing I want to ask you about. So I have it on good authority from a buddy of mine in the the wildlife management arena of our state, that we may be getting like a drawing for elk tags in Virginia next year. Yeah, and PA
Wow.
does it too, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So have you do you apply for that, or have you
Every year.
yeah, is it really tough to get?
It's very tough. My dad's been applying from the beginning in like 2003, and has, 17, 18 points, and hasn't drawn yet. I've been applying, trying to draw, but I have not drawn yet. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Have you seen any elk out
struggle.
there?
Oh yeah. I mean, I live on the edge of the elk herd.
Okay.
So I see them quite frequently, and I've shed hunted for them. I spend a lot of time in elk
Nice.
country. I've spent some time hunting in deer season in the elk area, and had bulls fighting and bugling and stuff all around me in the tree, and
That's awesome.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. Yeah, I haven't seen one in Virginia, but apparently I heard that there may be like 6 tags issued, or a drawing. I don't think that's public information. Hopefully don't get in trouble by saying that. But anyway, my uncle drew that Kentucky elk tag a few years ago.
Really?
and killed a nice bull. But anyway, man. All right. Well, we're almost done here. I appreciate your time. I got like 3 kind of like funny or not. I mean, they're kind of funny, like just rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
So you can bow hunt whitetails as much as you want, or you can rifle hunt everything else for the rest of your life. Which one are you picking?
Rifle hunt everything.
Okay, cool. Yeah. There's so much to experience.
Yep, exactly. You can make the experience however you want.
Totally.
As far as if you want to get into bow range with a rifle, you can do that.
That's true. I didn't think about it like that. Okay. You can eat all the beef and chicken you want or wild game only twice a week for the rest of your life. Which one are you going for?
Pick the beef and chicken.
Yeah? Okay.
I will. Yep.
Quantity, not quality type guy, huh?
Yeah. I like to eat and I like meat, so I'd have to take that route.
Nice, man. All right. And last one. Would you rather wear the same socks for a month or the same underwear for a week?
Same underwear for a week.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Socks you can't really they get like crusty and hard and like that's saturated.
Yeah. You get a good set of merino underwear, you're good for a week.
Nice, man. All right, cool. Well, thanks again, man. It's been fun catching up with you. I hope you have a great season. And definitely tell folks where they can hear more of your stuff, watch your videos, and I know you got some really cool scouting videos and stuff. So where can people find you at?
Yeah, so you can find my podcast, East Meets West Hunt, anywhere you can find podcasts, or at eastmeetswesthunt.com. You can find me on Instagram at my name, Beau Martonik, and my YouTube channel is under my name as well, Beau Martonik. So any of those places you can find that.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again, brother.
All right, thank you.
Thanks again for listening to the Hunter's Quest podcast, and make sure you stay up to date on social media at The Hunter's Quest on Instagram and The Hunter's Quest podcast on Facebook. And we'll have all kinds of photos and videos from my day-to-day, as well as stuff from the awesome guests we're having on here. As always, I'm more than happy to connect with you guys if you have questions about hunting or spiritual stuff or gear, fitness, whatever. Just drop me a line in my DMs, or you can email me at hunter@thisishuntersquest.com. If you like what you're hearing, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and leave me a rating and a review. That's really helpful. And don't forget to share with your friends. So stay tuned. Lots of cool stuff in the works, and I'm really excited to continue this quest together.